Hello and welcome to the program. Welcome to A Mind for Fitness. I'm your host, Ian Carlin. I'm so glad you could make it, where we talk about the important issues regarding health and fitness and weight loss and diet programs and diet protocols and non-diet programs and non-diet protocols and all that good stuff. And why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this to push you towards your goals. We're doing this so that you will achieve optimal health. It's so important. As I look back on my life, I know what it means to be in shape and I know what it means to be out of shape, and I'd much rather be in shape. And I know what it's like to struggle, and I know what it's like to reach out for help. And I know what it's like to get help from listening to podcasts like this, and just getting that little pick me up that helps you through your day, helps you say no to that craving that you were having, or helps you say yes to going to the gym when you really don't want to go to the gym. All those things came about in my life as a result of, for the most part, listening to podcasts like this. And so this is my opportunity to give back and become that voice, and and just expressing my own ideas. I'm just a guy with a microphone who lost a lot of weight and helping other people lose weight and having ideas about health and fitness and wants to contribute. And let me encourage you out there, you can contribute in your own way as well. You don't necessarily have to start a podcast, just be influential on your friends, just be an example to them. And if you do want to start your own podcast, it's easy, pretty easy to do. So, get out there and be another voice. There's plenty of room for all of us. I'm not one of those believers in, oh, only a few people can do podcasts. You know what? You get out there, you have a message, you get out there, you say your message, and people who like your message will start listening. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Just don't give up. You have a message on health and fitness. Start proclaiming that message if you have the gifts and talents and have the gift of gab to be able to do that. So, but you don't necessarily, like I said, you don't necessarily have to have a podcast or a webcast in order to do that. You just have to be influential in your own in your own sphere with your own friends. So, that's why I started this program, and that's what we're doing here today. And today we're going to be doing something that I've actually wanted to do for a while, and that's reviewing the book, The Gabriel Method. And this is going to be a little bit of a different podcast, because this is both going to be video and audio. If you want to hear or see the video, you have to go over to my YouTube page, A Mind for Fitness, and you'll be able to see the video. But if you just want to hear the audio, just listen to it on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, wherever you're listening to it. But I might hold, like right now, I'm holding up the book, The Gabriel Method, and of course, you guys on audio only aren't going to be able to hear it, or aren't going to be able to see it, aren't going to be able to hear it. Aha. So, holding up The Gabriel Method, I want to talk about this today. But before I do, I want to talk about my own book and some personal developments in my own life. Um, so, as many of you know, I've written this book. Now, this isn't the book itself, because it is just a piece of paper that has what the book looks like on it. And the reason why it's just a piece of paper is because it's only on ebook, and it is called "Fasting to Break Your Plateau: A Basic Guide to Intermittent Fasting." As many of you know, I am a big proponent of intermittent fasting. I guess when the time is right, when it's the occasion to do it. And I lost weight doing intermittent fasting, considerable amount of weight doing intermittent fasting. Boy, there's something coming through my. I don't know what that is. I'd like it to quit though. All right. So there's a considerable amount of weight that I lost during doing intermittent fasting, and and so I share what I did exactly in that book, and it's only on Kindle right now. And so that's why I'm only holding up a piece of paper with the cover and not an actual book. So you have to go to Kindle, and it's free for those who are Prime members. And if you're not a Prime member, it's only $2.99. I'm also working on another book right now. It's also going to be on Kindle. But you know what? I think I want to make an actual book. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that Kindle book and this Kindle book together in an actual book, so that somebody wants to, actually have a book in their hand. A lot of people like that. I know I like that. I prefer that. Um, so that's coming out, and the new book is kind of like documenting, like, I kind of want to call it like what's going wrong with your diet, kind of a thing. Um, and this is just so difficult for me to talk about because it's so it goes for a long time, and it's like convoluted. It's hard for me to get through all the information, but basically this was the book that I started writing like years ago, and I never got around to it. And the reason why I never got around to it is due to the fact that that things kept changing and evolving in my own personal experience. And so every time I would go to write the book, I would rewrite the book. And so if you listen to like some old podcasts, I talk about, oh, this book I'm writing, whatever. So instead of trying to write this complete book, this whole A to Z weight loss thing, what I decided to do is do what I did with this intermittent fasting book and just kind of just put it out there, just put the basic ideas out there. And the basic ideas are basically, this is what you're doing wrong, and why your diet is failing. That's kind of the basic idea, is this is what you're doing wrong, and this is why your diet is failing. Because I've experienced this in my life. I've experienced, um, not choosing the right plan, or choosing a plan that's too complicated for my life, or not being serious enough about my health, or a number of things that can actually go wrong. And I do not know what's going on with my audio today, guys. I apologize greatly for this, but let's see if I can. That seems to fix it right there, but let's see if that will stay fixed now. Let's hope that it does. Hope and pray that it does. So I talk about that, like unrealistic goals, and um, not choosing a plan, and all these things that over the course of my life that I've seen fail. And as I became a health coach, and as people started coming to me as they saw that I was having success, they saw, I was seeing this in them. I was seeing them fail at the same things. So I just decided to go ahead and write it down. It'll just be like a little booklet again. But I will probably put it together with fasting to break your plateau to make an actual book, because that's always nice to have that in your hands. And I know that a lot of people out there who are fans want an actual book as well. So that will be coming out. So with that, let's get into the meat and salad. I was going to say meat and potatoes, but no potatoes. All right, unless it's cheat day, no potatoes. Right? Okay, so let's get into the meat and salad of the Gabriel Method. First off, I got to say I was introduced to the Gabriel Method um, through that movie. I think it's not called Fed Up. It's something else. It's out. It's on Netflix. And he was one of the featured speakers on there. And I was really impressed with what he said. What he said, like, caught my attention. And he said something like, he'd been on all these diets, and he'd lost weight and gained weight and lost weight and gained weight. And he, went on the Pritikin diet. He went on the Atkins diet. He even worked with Dr. Atkins personally. And he said that, his body just wanted to be fat. And what he needed to do was figure out why his body wanted to be fat. And as soon as he figured out why his body wanted to be fat, he was able to unlock um, the weight loss key for him. And that really struck me. Um, and this wasn't something that I discovered early in my weight loss journey. It was actually something I discovered fairly later on, actually fairly recently, within the last maybe year at the most. Not sure exactly. I can't really pinpoint the time. But that stuck with me. It was just like, okay, that's an interesting and innovative approach. Figuring out why your body wants to be fat. Now, I identified with that because when I first started my weight loss journey, it was strictly uh, an Atkins type uh, protein powder. The protein powder was kind of more of what I was doing, but it was strictly an Atkins type of weight loss. I was just basically, manage your carbs, insulin's the key factor, and it didn't really matter what you're eating as long as it wasn't high carbohydrates. So, I was eating a lot of processed meat and stuff, and I did a fairly good job. I lost, 40, 50 pounds, somewhere around there, with that and exercise. Um, but then I went through these plateaus, and I won't bore you with them, but I've talked about it before, where basically I did low carb, but I also started stripping out processed foods from my diet, and then adding back in carbs that were more healthy at certain times, more natural type of carbohydrates, and kind of shifted over to something that would resemble like a low carb hybrid with paleo, because I do have some carbs on occasion, because I do a lot of glycolytically demanding activities. So um, I had to figure that out too. It wasn't just, oh, I need to do Atkins, or oh, I need to do paleo, or I need to do Pritikin. I had to figure out, okay, look, I'm not eating these carbs. Why is my body wanting to be fat? And so that really resonated with me on it. And then he also talked about something that I was highly interested in when he talked about it in the book and in his lectures. He talked about the mental aspect, and I am all about the mental aspect. I mean, that is a big portion of my show. That's why it's called A Mind for Fitness, because a lot of the battle happens in your mind. A lot of the battle happens in your brain. And so he calls it the no diet diet, um, which is a little bit of, that's the only thing that I would say is a little bit of a misnomer, but we'll go with it for now. I mean, I understand it's probably about the best way to describe it, about the only way that he could personally describe it. But there is an eating protocol to it. But when he started, he just said, "Look, I'm just going to start making healthier choices. I am not going to restrict any type of food and start that internal battle." So he was really into the mental aspect of the game. Um, and so he just started making healthier choices. If he had a craving, he would just, instead of trying to fight the craving, he would just indulge in it, and then get over it. And that's one of the things we've talked about before: indulge in it and get over it as soon as possible. That's the key. And as he went along, there was less and less of those cravings. For gosh sakes, why is that making that sound? I have no idea. Sorry about that, folks. Um, he was just having less and less of those kind of cravings as life went on, and as he made healthier choices. And then another thing that kind of resonated with me that I hadn't picked up on before, because a lot of my weight loss and a lot of the weight loss I still pass on is about, stripping carbs out of your diet and stripping processed food out of your diet. But he was really more about like what you added in your diet and drowning out and eclipsing the processed foods from your diet. So processed foods and high carb and high refined carbohydrate foods in your diet. So it was a matter of eclipsing those out rather than just, we're just not going to eat this. Instead of we're just not going to eat this, it's just like I'm going to start feeding my body what it needs to survive. And as I feed my body what it needs to survive, I will start drowning out those things that it doesn't need. And what you realize is that the more that you feed your body the micronutrients that it needs, the less you are inclined to eat bad food. And the reason why is because part of the reason you're craving bad food in the first place is is that your body is saying, "Hey, we're missing something. That's one of the reasons anyway. Your body is saying, "Hey, we're missing something here," and or or there's something going on, and so we need this. And so it goes into this idea that if you feed it what it needs, it won't crave that which it thinks it might need. um, so that's a big aspect to his method as well. But in the end, it really is a method. I mean, it really is a diet. Even though it's a non-diet diet, and he deals a lot with the emotional and psychological aspects of weight loss and what's keeping you overweight. The truth is his recommendation is simply that you get rid of man-made food. Okay, that's the basic idea right there. Okay, it's kind of I would say it this way. It's a paleo diet. What people would consider a paleo diet, a lower carb diet. And the reason why it's a lower carb diet is because when you eat natural food, you will naturally lower your carbohydrates. That's all there is to it. When you eat lower carbohydrate, when you eat natural foods, you naturally lower your carbohydrates. I mean, if you eat a potato rather than a bag of potato chips, even though the potato might be very high in carbohydrates, it's still not as high in carbohydrates as potato chips are, and you're also not likely to overeat as well. So that's super important aspect of it. So it's not about carbs, it's not about fats, it's about man-made fats and about man-made carbs, and getting rid of those by eating more of the natural stuff first and then eliminating it. And then eating in another aspect of his diet protocol is that eating when you're hungry, not trying to eat if you don't have to. Although at the beginning of his method, he does talk about breakfast, and he talks about this in a lot of his lectures and stuff about how important it is to eat breakfast and things like that. So he is a breakfast uh, com- proponent. But he does say, once you basically, the idea is once you get your metabolism under control, you can let your stomach guide you. So if you, at the beginning, you might want to eat these breakfasts, um, these nutrient rich breakfasts, for a couple of reasons: to feed your body what it needs, and to keep your blood sugar at a stable level. But after that happens, it's almost like he kind of inadvertently intermittent fasts. So that's the idea, is so it's like an intermittent fasting thing eventually. But that's not like the goal of it. The goal isn't like, oh, I'm going to intermittent fast. Okay, so this is the basic idea. You crowd your body, you crowd those bad things out with good things. I would say that's the basis of what he says as far as the diet is concerned and the mental aspect is concerned. The other thing he focuses on with exercise is exercising less and using your imagination to help you um, burn off uh, unwanted fat stores. And this is something that I've picked up on and have talked about regularly as well, because your body interprets stress. This is one of his major themes here, in one of two ways. Either it doesn't know, all it knows is that it's stress. And so if you interpret stress, for gosh sakes, I am so sorry about this. I have no idea what is going on with my audio today. So your body interprets stress either as a famine or as I'm being chased by a lion. And you wanted to interpret stress as I'm being chased by a lion. And he talks in the book about how he discovered this idea. And I find it to be very true. And a podcast back, I talked about like the best fat burning exercise in my opinion, and the best fat burning exercise in my opinion is like cardio kickboxing, or either cardio kickboxing or jujitsu. And the reason why is and I've seen this in my own life, in my own experience. I see people, especially women, on the treadmill, and like they're on the treadmill a lot, and like in a year they don't look any different. And and I'm not trying to be mean. Now some of them do. I'm not saying every exercise is right the same amount for every person. But there are so many of them that don't. I mean, literally, I will see the same person and they're running their mile a day, 3 miles a day, and they look no different. Um, now, part of that, I would say a big part of that is they're probably falling under the myth of um, the myth of, well, I can eat whatever I want as long as I burn it off. That's a myth. But I've seen some women too, especially like, okay, there's that, but then you get the same type of women and they come into like a kickboxing class where they're fighting and they're sparring, or a jujitsu class where you're rolling around and somebody's trying to choke you. There's no way for your body to interpret that other than, I need to be thin in order to survive. And if your body really believes that you need to be thin in order to survive, it will make you thin. You will start losing the weight. And that is why somebody can do one type of cardio and it doesn't work, but then go over and do another type of cardio and it does work. And I've seen ladies, just shed fat in a cardio kickboxing. They'll come in 30, 50 pounds overweight, and and in just a few months they'll be down 20, 30, 40 pounds. It's like, whoa, what happened? They're fighting. There's also the aspect of the exercise. The exercise is very glycolytic. It's very much an exercise that demands a lot out of you. You're going from small rest periods to really, which is, a really great way to burn fat in the first place. But I think the mental aspect has a lot to do with that too. So he picks up on that in the Gabriel method. And another key component is the idea of, regulating your sleep, because your sleep controls cortisol, and the cortisol is going to control insulin, is going to help with, or is going to regulate insulin. So I um, I really enjoyed the book. It's highly recommended because he tackles it from kind of the same areas that I have tackled it from. That mental aspect is really important, and the idea also of doing activity that you really enjoy. He talks about that, so that's why I love kickboxing. I love jujitsu. I love martial arts in general. And so when I go to class and I come out of class all drenched, it's like I didn't work out because I'm loving it. I mean, I'm tired, but I'm loving it. It's different than running, where you're just which I run too. Don't misunderstand me. I do run as well as lift weights, as all that stuff. I do all the good stuff. But I love kickboxing and jujitsu because I mean, you get this workout on that you just, and you don't even realize that you're getting it. I mean, you're tired and stuff, but you're having just a blast. So he, in his book and in his videos and stuff, recommends things like, playing frisbee, going out and throwing around the ball, just doing stuff that you really enjoy and love. So, and then getting the proper amount of sleep. He goes into some deep psychological issues as well in the book, where he talks about like people need to be fat and they feel as though they need to be fat in order to be safe. And he talks about techniques that will help with that. And I'm all on board with those techniques. I also talk about that with my clients, and I use a lot of NLP with them. So that is the basic book. I mean, that is the Gabriel Method in a nutshell. So I recommend it. I recommend it highly. It's an awesome program if you're going to pick it. And my thoughts are, pick something. Don't just kind of meander. Oh, I'll just kind of, do this or that or a little bit of this. Pick something. And this is a great book to pick. So I recommend you buy it. I recommend you pick it up. Are there any negatives about it, so that people don't think that I'm just promoting the book here? The only thing that I would say is real negative about it is it's really difficult because I really do love the book. But um, it is, you will change how you eat. Okay, so there's no way around that. You will change how you eat, and there is going to be a little bit of effort uh, to put in. So even though he's minimized the effort, it's not as bad as just somebody coming along and saying, you just restrict your carbohydrates to 50 carbohydrates a day, and that's all you're going to do, and you're going to count it and all that stuff. But there still is this restriction. I mean, it's a slower restriction. So he doesn't eat bread. He talks about how bread tastes like cardboard. Well, he's done that through NLP, and he has some NLP stuff in here. He doesn't necessarily call it NLP, but that is what it is. It is neuro linguistic programming. Some of these things. So if you think you're going to read it and then you're just going to be able to chow down on pizzas all day and corn dogs, and you're going to lose weight, that's not the case. There is going to be some effort on your part, but he has really figured out how to minimize the effort. And so the only thing I would say is that don't fool yourself with it. It is, to a degree, a diet protocol. It is a degree a workout protocol, and it to a degree will take some effort. And I think perhaps maybe just that is a little bit oversold. But other than that, I loved it. I love the book. It's changed my perspective on weight loss. And I even feel bad saying that, because of course, I mean, I fully recommend the book. I mean, it's great, but I don't want people to think that he's paying me or something like that, because that's furthest thing from the truth. So pick that book up, and please, if you like what you heard today, share this on your favorite social media. That helps us out a lot. And write a review on iTunes or Stitcher. That helps. I'm going to be having a bigger presence on YouTube. What you're listening to here on the podcast is also a webcast on YouTube. So please go over to the YouTube page and subscribe if you would not mind. And that would help me out a great deal. And buy my book, buy Fasting to Break Your Plateau. I talk all about intermittent fasting. It's a basic guide to intermittent fasting. Go to Amazon, pick the book up. If you are in need of a health coach, please contact us at advancedweightlossresources.com and get in contact with me there. I am more than willing to help you out. Also, you can follow us on Facebook at A Mind for Fitness, and on Twitter at A Mind for Fitness. So thank you very much. And until we meet again, please keep your mind on health.